obviously there was a lot of back and forth. I mean, pace is what you expected when you play ORU at this point. What happened over the last 13 minutes? Because that's kind of where they took it away.
I think we played really hard. ORU is a great team, but we just didn't have that drive to win it. We kind of got complacent, and we just weren't pushing ourselves where we needed to.
Kendall, same kind of thing. I mean, it just felt like maybe fatigue set in a little bit. I mean, you guys were shooting the three pretty well, you in particular, and then I think one of the last 8 went in. Do you attribute that at all just to the pace and having to run up and down the floor and kind of losing your legs at the end a little bit?
I think a little bit, but I think it goes back to us focusing on the little details. We know what is expected of us, and we know what we're supposed to be doing, but it comes down to doing it all 4 quarters. Because I would say we did it for the first 3 quarters, and then we just got to continue to put it together for 40 minutes.
It felt similar a little bit with Montana. You guys played, well for long stretches in that game, and kind of the same story there. I mean, I think they outscored you 19-5 in the 5th. How correctable is it, and how quickly can those corrections be made as you get into really the real meat of the Summit League schedule now?
I think it's very correctable. We got to go back and focus on us and see what we can do better in all those little small details and just come back. We have a lot of games ahead of us, and we get ORU again, and we're going to come back out with a fight. We're not going to let them get the best of us again.
Grace, just you've seen in a lot of these games that haven't gone your way late, how close you really are. Is that comforting at all to know, like, it is just kind of one thing here or there in a matter of execution?
In a way, yes, but also it kind of just makes us more mad, to be honest. Like, they're very winnable games, but they're also very losable games, and we need to come out on top.
So just talking about that last stretch again, it felt like you guys were getting open shots. Did you guys like the quality of shots you guys were getting down the stretch? It just felt like they weren't going in for you guys.
Yeah, I think we were getting really good quality shots. It just comes back to defense and rebounding. And if you're not hitting those shots, what are you doing on the other side of the floor to help contribute to you winning the game?
And then I think in the 4th quarter they had 14 free throws compared to your guys' 4. What do you guys attribute that to?
Laziness. We were getting back cut. We were fouling in the paint. We were not working as a team, and that's very fixable.
And then I think in the 2nd quarter you guys switched to a lot of 2-3 zone. I'm just curious, like, what coach said about, why you guys wanted to do that, and what did you guys see from that zone? Like, what did you like that you were getting out of it, I guess?
We were just trying to give them a different look, mix it up, try and get them out of their system, and kind of get the flow on our favor.
Just looking at it, 22 turnovers is definitely something I'm sure you guys are, you mentioned correctable, fixable mistakes. I'm sure that's something that you'll look at. But, I mean, was there any sort of look that they were giving you, any sort of, anything schematically that they were doing that maybe led to some unforced errors or some, uncharacteristic turnovers?
For sure. They are a great defensive team, like full court pressure-wise. And so they pressure a lot, and that we need to stay cool, calm, and collected because 20 turnovers off 23 points for them is kind of what lost us the game, in my opinion.
And I think we really just that goes back to us and what we're doing with the ball. So I think it comes down to us being able, like Grace said, is being cool, calm, and collected and taking that breath and not letting pressure or what they're doing get the best of us. But I do think we were getting good shots, and our offense was flowing. So I wouldn't say that we weren't getting what we wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys talk a lot about, these are things that you need to fix. It's really looking within ourselves. So when you look at kind of just the back end of the second half where, you guys go up by 8 points, but you couldn't really get a shot to fall. Sometimes that's just how basketball is. So, I mean, obviously it's early in Summit League play. So do you kind of look at this as obviously, you don't want to lose these kind of games, but when you really look at how it went down, how much do you weigh this kind of a result? Just because, like you said, you like the looks that you got. So is this something that you really stress about, or is it something that you can just say, hey, that's just basketball?
I think that this is definitely something that we'll stress about. Every game matters, and you're never going to hit all your shots in a game. So whether that's, you go through stretches, it's ebbs and flows, and even though ours was right at the end, we still need to get back on defense. We still need to stop them. They had way more shot attempts than we did, and that's where we need to pick it up.
Every loss hurts. I mean, I think anyone would say that when they play competitive sports. But at the end of the day, you're gonna have hills and valleys in a basketball season, and everybody's gonna hit adversity, and it's how we respond to that. So we need to come out to the next game with a fire and a edge on us.
Yeah. Just last thing for you, obviously Talia had a good night. Was there any sort of, any adjustment that you tried that maybe just didn't work, or was it just, that kind of a night for her, you think?
She's a great player, and she had an amazing game tonight. She was hitting her threes, and we just need to have more awareness when it comes to that.
Yeah, frustrating one for us. This is a really talented Oral Roberts team, one that scores at really at a high level, obviously, and we knew turnovers were going to be a huge part of the deal tonight and big key to the game. So obviously to have 22 hurt us quite a bit. Even to cut that in half, you're in a much better spot. Obviously we shot the ball, I think, well enough to win, but just didn't take care of it at key times, and then felt like we ran out of gas in the fourth quarter. Just kept trying to change defenses, and it seemed like it didn't really matter what we did. We just couldn't keep the ball in front of us, didn't rotate fast enough, and they were just getting too many easy looks. We talked a lot about just having that fire and that edge, and feel like we do it for stretches, and we've got to do it for much longer. We've got to stay disciplined for longer, and that's a big piece of it. We've got to grow in that area to be more disciplined. So we've got to keep working to get better.
You mentioned kind of running out of gas, and I wondered, you had shot the three pretty well all night. I mean, pretty much anybody that shot it was fairly efficient in that way, and then 1 of 8 in the fourth quarter. How much do you attribute that to just the style and having to play at that speed for that long against this Oral? I mean, because in a lot of ways they got exactly what they wanted that way.
Yeah, they play really up tempo, right? And then the hard part is we actually thought we handled their press pretty well compared to in the past, and had a lot of turnovers. But I don't think that there were many, if any, that were directly resulted of the run and jump press. But as soon as you break it, you're already in an advantage. So the hard part is to not take advantage, to really attack it and go 3-on-2 and get a good look. The problem with that is then you're starting to play at their speed the whole time. It worked out. It was just fine for us until, like we talked about, late in that third quarter started to shift, and then I think they had cut it to 5, and I was like, this is going to go either way. This is going to get tied up really quickly, or this is going to go to 10, and it just didn't go the right way for us. So I think that's going to be a big piece of it. 1 second. It's going to be a big piece is you got to be able to play at that high level. You've got to be able to run and gun. This is, I think, the fastest team and the most up and down team in the league. But they played 5 kids in 30 minutes and won almost 38. So we've just got to grow in that area to be able to sustain it through the fourth quarter.
And the fourth quarter, Montana, I think, he played very well in stretches in that game too. Had a big lead at one point, and then they got you 19-5 in the fourth, and then tonight it's 30-15. I know free throws had something to do with that down the stretch in terms of the difference, but how do you put it? And I mean, I asked the ladies too, like, how close do you feel like you're putting to 40 minutes together? Because 30 are going pretty well generally, and then it's just, unfortunately, at crunch time when it goes away.
Yeah, close. We talked about that the last couple of days too. We just feel like we do it for these stretches, and especially when things are going really well, it's easy to defend harder when your shots are going in. It's easy to have that momentum when you build an 8-point lead and you want to keep building on it, but all it takes is 1 and 1, because we don't finish a play and they get a put back in an and 1 for that to flip really quickly. And then I could even tell our body language changed a little bit, and we've got to find ways to sustain it. But we've talked about that the last couple of days. We feel like we're so close. We feel like this is the time of year where you're saying the same things over and over. The players probably feel like they're hearing the same teaching cues and the same motivational things over and over, and yet you have to stay with it. You do, because if you're building on something and you're just feel like you're right on the edge of the breakthrough. So we've got to just stay with it, and everybody's got to have that get hungry and get better mindset.
14 free throws for Oral Roberts compared to year 4 in the fourth quarter. Grace attributed that just to laziness. I'm curious what you would attribute that to.
I just think they were a lot more aggressive off the dribble. I think they had a lot more opportunities at the rim, and felt like we had a good game plan going in, but didn't execute it as well down the stretch. But they did a good job on the other side of when we started to drive. They really collapsed, especially on Grace, and then forced her to kind of pivot and look for somebody who was open. And so it just wasn't as easy for us to get all the way to the rim. The way that Jones and Robinson shot it early in the game is I mean, they're decent, they're pretty good shooters, but they shot it at a really high level early, so that forced us to get up and get closer on them. And because of that, then it opened up some driving lanes, and we didn't rotate fast enough. So I think they just, by the result of that, we were out of position, gave up a couple offensive rebounds and putbacks, and I think those are real killers down the stretch.
And you guys switched to more of like a 2-3 defense in the second quarter. What was kind of like the motivation behind that?
Yeah, we switched a lot throughout the game and just wanted to keep giving them different looks. They're just so good off the dribble, and we felt like if we could be in a zone and pack it in a little bit, then force them to beat us from the outside. You know, unfortunately, they went and did that and hit a lot more threes than they usually do, and they only averaged 6 and made threes a game, and then they hit 10 tonight. So that hurt us, but again, that's what they do, is they try to get downhill. So we just try to keep mixing it up back and forth. Unfortunately, too, with our zone, we were giving up a little bit more open threes and then again, they were downhill driving. And so we've got to be able to do both. It doesn't matter what defense we're going to play. We've just got to be tougher on that end. We've got to be more disciplined on that end. There's a lot of room for growth there.
Coach, it felt like the game kind of hit a point where, you know, you go up by 58-50 after they called a timeout, or before they called a timeout, and then you go up 58-50, but it just seemed like that big shot never really came because, you know, it felt like just watching it, any team that went up by double digits, it felt like they were going to be able to just, you know, pull away. How is it frustrating knowing that, you know, maybe you feel like you're just one or two big shots away, whether it be a three, a layup, an and one, what have you? How frustrating is it, just kind of that feeling of, you know, we were just, you know, one more shot away or one more play away?
Well, if I remember right, in that stretch, they got an offensive rebound put back, I think, to make it 58-53, and then if I remember right, the sequence. But right in there, we had Kendall on a hit-ahead pass in transition, wide open on the wing, and she airballs it. It's our best three-point shooter, one of our most consistent kids. And then Natalie Mazurek had another look the next time down, or 2 possessions later, for a three, and it rattled in and out. And both of them I would take again. Both of them are really good looks, and I think that's what you're talking about. I think you're right on the cusp of it. We lack that killer instinct. We lack that just extra drive to go put somebody away, or at least put them in a position where they're crawling out of a hole. We tend to let people, but then we got to go back in transition defense, and now we've got to work to get a stop again, which was clearly hard for us to do all night, giving up 91 points. So, we're on the cusp of it. You know, it's continuing to build confidence in these players, and one of these days, I think that big shot's going to come. That's going to propel us in going forward.
You know, down the stretch there, Talia Jones, I mean, obviously she had a good night tonight, but, you know, what were some adjustments that you tried to make to maybe slow her down? I mean, was it just kind of good offense against good defense, or is there anything that you maybe wish you would have adjusted to or switched to maybe, you know, throw her off her game a little bit?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think she just doesn't look to shoot threes that well, or that many times. And since she did it so well early in the game, we felt like we had to get up and contest her a lot more. And the problem with that is she's also a really good athlete and a good driver. So by us getting up and trying to run her off the three-point line, it forced her to drive, which is natural. But we were late on rotations and late to get back, and then she got to the free throw line too many times on us because of all that. So yeah, it's the horse apiece, right? You're either going to back off and force her to beat you from threes, but she shot it really well tonight. So we felt like we made the right adjustment, and then as the fourth quarter went on, she was so aggressive. It just was one of those nights for a player probably where she just felt like everything was going in, and she was feeling really good about it.
You know, you mentioned that you feel like the team could maybe be, feel like in a position where they're hearing a lot of the same messages. Moving forward, how do you try to maybe switch that message up, convey a different message to try and, not that your team is lacking a spark, but, you say that you feel like you're on the cusp of it, and sometimes it just takes that one practice, that one play to really, ignite a team. So, I mean, how do you try to maybe switch that message up or convey a different message to really, galvanize the girls?
Yeah, that's what our coaching staff's going to have to reevaluate. That's what we've done over the first 17 games. We felt like, for the most part, was pretty effective, and it was the right style to teach it and the right style to play, and felt like we had good results for the most part over those games. And then you have a couple of big conference home losses that really hurt, and now you're going back to not back to the drawing board, but back to just reevaluating at a high level. Like, are we doing the right thing? And also, how can we teach? Maybe it's the way we're teaching it. You always look back and you've got to point the finger back at yourself. Are we teaching this the right way? Is it? Do we need to just change up the way that we're teaching it or how we're saying it? So we will do all that, and we'll just continue to move forward. I think this group is resilient. That's the part that I like about them. I love about them, actually, is they do come, especially after losses, hungry and ready to get better. So now it's up to us to push them even harder than what we've been doing, and see how they respond to that, because these teams so far in conference play have pushed us. They've pushed us hard. Even the one win we have was a grinder, and it was a tough game too. So it's going to be a battle every single night. We've told our team that. You've got to be ready to go, and after a couple games, I think they start to believe you, because it's the truth. No matter who you play, doesn't matter where these teams are picked, it's going to be a battle. So we need to keep improving and get better every night.
All right, last one for you. Any silver lining? I know it might be tough to maybe look for some positives, but any silver lining in a near Grace Larkin's triple-double? I mean, everybody knows how good of a player she is, but just as her coach, what are you most impressed by just how she seemingly every night just delivers and, every aspect of the stat sheet?
Yeah, her consistency, I think, is just what's really impressive. And to score that many points on that many shots, she's doing the right things that way. I think just continuing to work with her on taking care of the ball. It's mainly just decision making. It's when to keep it and go to the rim, when to kick it out, because teams are focusing on her. But there's a lot of people that have to work on that. So I think just her consistency to have the hunger and to want to get to the rim all the time. It's just impressive to witness, for sure. I thought Natalie Mazurek had really good minutes. She hit a couple buckets for us and was just pretty aggressive, so I thought that was good. Liv Kiefer hit a couple of threes early on in the game that were big when we were struggling to score it. There's bright spots. We took care of the ball against the run and jump press, which we didn't do so well last year. I think our turnovers weren't in direct result of that. So there are a couple good things you can pull from it, for sure.